Welcome to the Joypunk podcast. I'm your host, Jenelle Etzel. Today, we've got a different kind of show. Of all the things that I've done in my life, there's one thing I find people ask me about more than anything, and that's how I met my husband. Now, our story is pretty unique. In 2019, I decided to host a matchmaking tournament. I held a contest, and the winner of that contest would be me. I'd find love, but hopefully it would be them as well. Whenever I tell people that's how I met my husband, it's always followed by so many more questions, and people want to know just how I did it, what were the rules, what did it look like? And so today, I brought in a third party to help me tell the story. Thanks for being here, Zip.
Thanks for having me, Jenelle. I'm very excited to be interviewing you on your own podcast about this story. So you held a matchmaking contest.
True.
Before we get to the crux of that,
Yeah.
explain to me why.
Yeah. Well,
What led you to want to do this? What led you to feeling like this was what you had to do or wanted to do?
sure. I mean, there were a lot of things as I reflect on getting to this point. But first, let me back up. I had one of my best friends who's an incredible artist and has been a huge inspiration to me in my life. We definitely have a soul and a spirit connection that runs really deep. And her name is Mary Beth Lorenz. And I watched her. She's about 15 years older than I am. And I remember her being my age and wanting to meet a partner. And she, as an artist, just put it out to her friends like, hey, I'd like to meet somebody. I'd be so thankful if you connected me with somebody. And if you do, I'll make you a piece of art. And I don't remember really hitting me over the head at the time. But I remember thinking, that is really cute. That's like super fun. And I remember the birthday party that I was at when I met her future husband, Howard. And it was actually Howard's ex-wife that introduced them, which I thought was super sweet. But we had this amazing night of dancing. And long story short, they've been dancing together now for, gosh, it must be over 15 years. So I was at a point in my life where I was serious about meeting someone that would be a partner. This is 2019, so my girls were just getting out of elementary into middle school. They were a little more independent. I had been divorced at that point for nearly 10 years, maybe more. I had dated. I had a really great partner, actually, for a long time, and I would say that it was a wonderful love, and he helped me really raise and take care of the girls. But maybe the two of us, we formed family really well together. But I don't know if I look back at the two of us that there was partnership there for me in a way that I was starting to really understand what I needed apart from being a mom. And I was starting to see, and I see even more now with the girls now in high school, of how me having a partner for me is going to be more and more important as these girls go away and I redefine my life. I love setting people up. The thing that I am more than anything in the world is probably a connector. There's nothing that makes me more excited than I'm in love with a human being and I'm in love with this other human being and I know I'm going to have an event and I'm going to get them together and then seeing them connect. That's my favorite thing at a party is a lot of people call me the great American hype man because I'm just so excited about bringing people together and hyping them up. And you got to know each other. It's just so exciting to me. So I'm a natural matchmaker. And when I was single, I was so frustrated because I was just surprised that nobody ever matchmake me. And it's interesting, actually, a guest that we just had on, Jill Keeler. I was at the opening of Freeland Spirits. And I was telling her that I was like, no one's matchmaking me. I was watching, we were both single at the time. And she's like, well, have you asked? I'm like, oh, that's a really good point. Like, I I haven't. Like, so I should be strategic about like going out and asking and remembering Mary Beth's success, and that, there was like this like art that like sparked my creativity and fun. I thought that would be a fun way to share joy. And so these ideas were swirling at the time. And then I had an appointment with Carol Ferris, who is an incredible mentor of mine here in town. And I'm a woman in business, and she's also a study of astrology. And I was like, I want to meet somebody. And she's like, well, do you have your list? It was like, well, what's the list? She's like, well, of course you got to have the list. You have to write the things that you want. Otherwise you're not going to find what you want until you know. And so she said, write the 10 things that you want in a partner. And so I left that conversation and really thought about it. And then
How long did that take you to come up with that list?
Something when I look back at those journals at that time, 2018, 2019, I was so involved in discovering myself, in discovering what I wanted, in discovering who I was outside of a partner. There was so much work and journaling and thinking and exercises that I was doing.
So it was like a process. You didn't just like write this down in 10 minutes.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, I scheduled intentional time for me to go away. It was just me by myself. And I really thought about that list. And Carol had given me some really great advice about writing the list. She's like, write the list, get to the 10 things. And then you're going to revise and edit probably a handful of times, because I want you to go and I want you to really define what each of those words means to you. For example, success. Well, I can say that out loud, and everybody's going to define that in their own way.
As in a partner who's successful.
Yeah. Right. Are these the things important to me? But only I really know what that means to me. And so, challenging myself to get really specific about what these things that I wanted were. And then she said, you're going to feel pretty confident about your list, but I want you to go back again. And then I want you to make sure you're not writing things down on that list that are really just things you value about yourself, but may not need in a partner or may not bring balance or the life you want if you were actually to get those in a partner. I'm thankful she gave me an example, because it's kind of a difficult thing to actually look at and ask yourself. And one of the examples that she gave me was on her list when before she met her husband was generosity. And that, of course, like who wouldn't want a generous partner? But then when she went back and she really looked at it, she realized, I enjoy being the generous partner. Like I enjoy being generous. And maybe actually what I want is someone that holds my arm back at the auction, that has me pause and think about that. That is creating the conditions for me in which I can be generous. But maybe just generous is too broad. Like that's the thing I admire about myself. And maybe that's not what I want from a partner. So I thought that was really interesting too, is to go back and take a look and be like, okay, I bring this. Is it actually critical that my partner bring this? Or is this just something that is just really important that I value about myself?
Yeah, I think that that's a common thing that people probably do that they don't even know they're doing when they're looking for a partner.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're attracted to people like us. And then, stuff starts falling through the cracks, because a really great partner oftentimes can hold us up where we're failing or where we're not the strongest. And And this whole exploration of partnership, what was so beautiful about this for me is that I was coming into understanding partnership, not just romantically, but also, running a company. I started really understanding that and valuing the partnership that I had around me professionally and through friends, and seeing how people showed up with strengths that it really worked for me. Yes, I've got a lot of skills and I have a lot of talents and, we're going to figure it out, but like not having to be on your own and getting to a point for me, which was a journey of like really, really seeing that, those that are really different from me and valuing that and really valuing the tension that brought and just the beauty of partnership in general, being a single mom, being a solo entrepreneur, all of these things. There were so many ways I was alone in the world and opening myself up to partnership. It was actually at this time that I wound up meeting a couple of investors that I worked with, and it was such a successful partnership. And they really taught me my part was enough. I was used to being a partner. I think it's like going back to a girlhood. And it would be like, okay, partner up, you're going to do a group project. And that usually meant I was going to do 80% of it. Right. and I feel like I had lived my life for a long time that, being so capable that I would just naturally hold more than my share.
Romantically,
professionally, in the family unit, like financially, the oldest sister, the kid nobody worries about, you just hold more, you're capable, but you get to a certain point in life where you're like, do I have to hold it all myself? Or like, and like starting to believe and have faith and open myself up to that there are other people that are willing to hold
more than 20%.
Yeah, more than 20%. And that don't want you to hold more than you should. Like, and so, this partnership I was talking about in this building was so important to me because it was the first time I had done like a really big business deal where I was coming in, I was a third partner, and it was enough just to be doing already what I was doing and didn't ask for more ever. It was like, here's your part in the partnership. Run a successful business and pay your rent. But like they took care of the remodeling. They took care of buying the property. They took care of the loan. They took care, and it was like, oh, wow. And to see just doing what I did, not having to hold 80%, but just holding my portion of it was a huge value, and the gratitude and that like the trust there. And so there were just all these small unfoldings happening for me around the time around partnership that were just really quite meaningful and really beautiful, and it made me realize too, like partnership's fun. It's just really fun. It is fun to be supported and like in it with other people and not feel like you're holding it all.
Okay, so you have your list.
Yeah, I got my list.
You've honed it. And I'm sure people are wondering what was on it, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
I have to ask the obvious question here, which I'm sure a lot of people at home are thinking. So you had your list. Why didn't you just do the online thing? Why hold a contest? Because it feels like a lot of work. I mean, we haven't even heard about it yet, and I feel like I already know this is going to be a lot of work.
It didn't occur to me as a lot of work. It just occurred to me as so nourishing and just really taking the time to do something for myself. But yeah, why didn't I do online?
Or did you? I don't know.
Well, I made a profile online. I think I did it on like an old school one. It was like match.com, or, it was supposed to like, it costs money and it's supposed to like have people be more serious. And I put a profile up there and then like promptly was like sexually harassed, like, twice. And then I was like, okay, I'm done.
Did you tell the people, did you read the list? I don't think you sexually harassing me
It's
on
on
the
the
list.
list. It's not on the list. I don't know that online dating was the place for my type of radical earnestness. I also, quite frankly, just from a logistics standpoint, I ain't got time for that. So I went out on one online date. I liked looking at people's book lists because, like, I read a ton. And so I would contact someone and be like, so this person I went on the date with, it was like, I love that book. Love to meet you for lunch. Let's talk about that book. Because, like, to me, I'm thinking, well, I don't care if we're a match or not, but, like, pretty excited to talk about that book. and um, and we go out. He had been online dating for a while. He's like, so you've not really done this before, have you? And I was like, how do you know? He's like, because you don't go straight to just asking people to meet. Like, there's like texting back and forth. I remember looking at him just so incredulously, like, who's got time for that? I don't have time to text flirt. Like, my life is so damn big. I got priorities, and that's not one of them. I want to
Text
meet
flirting
you.
not on the list.
Not on the list. And I'm a type of person that, there's a lot of feel. And so it's like, I think I will get in front of each other and we'll know pretty quickly. And I got to eat lunch. So I might as well two things at once, eat some lunch, see if, and anyway. So when I'm really thankful to him because when he complained about his ex-wife for a really long time. So he made it real clear that, like, I'll never want to do this again. Not for me. And two, just, him letting me know, like, hey, this is kind of how it goes. And me understanding why it just felt off. I'm like, well, I just reaching right out and asking people if they want to talk about a book or have lunch. And that's not how it goes. It just made me reevaluate, okay, what's a system that's actually gonna work for me?
Okay, so what was the first thing you did? You created the list for the contest.
Yeah.
What was the next? Take me through like the next iteration of this.
Yeah. One thing, again, I'm a community builder. At the time, I was also in leadership in Portland's Entrepreneurs Organization. I mean, I have a huge network.
You're a local businesswoman.
Yeah.
Who owns a small business and multiple buildings. I'd imagine you probably have a pretty big network of folks who know you.
Yeah, through music, through the art scene, through business, I just have this really
a local celebrity, if you will.
No, not at all. But I've been in this town my whole entire life. I love the people here. I'm extroverted. I just thought, okay, I know really great people. How do I just get those people to introduce me to other great people? Because the people that know you, right, and care about you are probably the best to set you up. So I thought online dating is great, but I'm like, wait a minute, I have a network that's probably more powerful than that, and that will filter, and then I don't have to do this text flirting thing. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, perfect. I will just, and I'm a referral marketer. Like, I teach referral marketing all the time. Referral marketing in sales to different business people. I coach our agents on that. And basically, it's sharing the story of how you serve and examples of, what you do and what you're looking for. And then, people send you business. And I have built this incredible career on having people by word of mouth tell other people about me and like meeting fantastic new clients. So it's like, well, let me apply that to love.
Why not have them send you amazing suitors?
Why not? Like, what else could the universe send me?
So then you did something really cool and unique, which is you didn't put together an email. It wasn't an email blast. You literally printed out a booklet and you mailed it to people.
Yeah.
Like a 6-page booklet.
It wouldn't occur to me to send an email. Like, I would never send someone an email to ask them for anything significant. I mean, I'm a card writer. That's something people all know about me. Like, I love some stationery and I love to send a card. So I thought, well, I'll put together this book. I'll put together a book and, and like, I actually have a lot of games I love to play. I'm an Enneagram 7. I like to have fun. There's just something about me. And what I try to do when I've got a big task before me is make it into a game.
Gamify it.
Gamify it. So when I was dating, I actually had a game. And while I was dating, this game people would ask me about all the time. I consulted a lot of single people about the game I was playing then. I'm playing a game called Nowhere to Get. And Nowhere to Get was about taking all of the stress out of dating and showing up authentically as yourself. And and reminding myself as I sat in that seat to be radically candid with the person across from me with nowhere to get. We're not trying to get anywhere. We're just trying to meet each other, enjoy each other's company. And in the minute that we're not, I'm going to let you know, I know where to get. And that type of honesty and boundary settings, that was a game changer. It was a real game changer. A really good example. I went and I had tickets to the ballet, and I was out with a fellow entrepreneur that I met in a golf tournament. And we both, I think, we were at that point. He was newly divorced. I had just broken up with a long-term partner. I think we're both in a space we really needed to play. Nowhere to get. Let's enjoy each other's company. It was a great relationship. And tickets to the ballet that night, I'm dressing up. He's going to come pick me up. And then at the end of the conversation, he's like, oh, yeah, well, he's like, pack a toothbrush. It'd be cool. We'll be downtown. My place is downtown. You can spend the night. And then it was like a quick goodbye. And I was sitting there with the phone hung up, and I was like, I don't want to spend the night. I'm not ready to take a toothbrush. I don't want to wake up in the morning. And as I was processing this and thinking it, the phone rings and he called right back. And I was like, hey, and he's like, God, I am so sorry. He's like, you know what? I hung up and I had this feeling inside, and I realized I'm not really ready to have you come spend the night. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so relieved, because I'm sitting here thinking the same thing. In that moment of playing Nowhere to Get, what was so clear to me was that before playing Nowhere to Get, I would have heard that as some form of rejection.
The fact that he called you back and said,
yeah, didn't want me to spend the night. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? What, is he not crazy about me? Does he not really, and it was just no, he's telling me where he's at. And it showed up to me as, here is a person who respects me enough to tell me their truth. Here is a person that respects themselves enough to tell me the truth. Here's a person where it's always going to be safe to be honest. And, that just it just opened up conversations and intimacy in a way that I hadn't had before in my life, where I felt like every relationship was of some kind of positioning. And something that I had done previously in love is that I was so wrapped up in, do they like me, that I wasn't asking myself, do I like them? Is this right for me? And I'd kind of had a string of relationships for a long time when I was younger, where, if I really look back, I'd think that I was, being an ambitious person, being the kind of person, it's like I was kind of out to win the love of someone, but I didn't realize, my love is a prize. How does someone earn that? How does someone really get that? So anyway, I gamified it. And the matchmaking tournament, it was taking a little bit of Mary Beth and Howard's example of doing that, and the list, and then you've got to have rules, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, got to have rules. It's a game. What are the rules that you're playing by? And then putting it out.
Well, I think you have a copy of the book here.
Yeah.
I'd love it if you read from the book for the listeners.
The cover it says 2019 Matchmaking Tournament. May your arrows fly straight and your aim be true. You have received this invitation to participate because I value our friendship and admire your ability to connect and build lasting relationships. I have a challenge for you. It's a modern tournament of the heart with an old school twist. To play, you introduce me to a single man aged 35 to 47 with whom I choose to share my heart. Strategy here is simple. Connect me any way you choose, in person, text, email, whatever, with a person who fits the description included. It will be easiest if they live here, but I would consider a world-class out-of-towner who is flexible on location. If the match results in an exclusive, long-term romance, you win. The prize is a handcrafted, custom weaving, painting, or mosaic I will create for you with the passion and inspiration of new love. I know many of my friends like to win simply for the thrill of winning. So lifetime bragging rights and eternal gratitude are included. In compliance with International Fair Play Committee's value of respect and friendship. For my part, I promise to be open, lead with trust, be honest, move closer or away with grace, find creative ways to delight, pay attention, instigate laughter, make space for our differences, slow down in their presence, and feed them good food. All right, ready to be a contender? This is who I'm seeking. A man who takes me on outdoor adventures and includes me in his love affair with life. He must be grounded with deep roots in the community and a strong sense of place. He must be a partner willing to help me preserve and protect what I have built. I want a man who feels the universe through my body and cherishes me as a natural resource to be enjoyed and nourished. I need a man who stands his ground, who will push back on my passionate ideas and bring heat I will surrender to. He knows how to laugh and make me laugh. I'm looking for someone who loves deeply, adores me, is loyal, and always has my back. The man I'm seeking must be curious, a lifelong learner who can take conversations to a deeper place. Men are beautiful creatures, and I'm attracted to all types and sizes. What is important is that he is handsomely confident in his skin, healthy and sensual. He enjoys sex, touch, fresh foods, art, and music. He should have influence and be respected by those who know him, is successful in his field and a doer. He must share a loving bond with his close male friends. He will embrace a spiritual side, read, be thoughtful, and work to be present. He will be someone who finds meaning, beauty, and truth in nature and wisdom in the joys and struggles of life. A note to participants. In playing the game, it's my hope that we all win. This is an invitation to play, to dance with one another, to suggest a romance, nudge a spark, trust our intuition, joyfully imagine the energy of two spirits meeting and allowing for ourselves to take aim at destiny, making us all the more alive. It reminds us that we're still a connected tribe of spell casting, howl at the moon, lovers and warriors who can weave stories and start fires when the power's out and no one is watching. Be bold and brave and join the mischief of wildness. Let's awaken the desires of the heart. And I have a little asterisk here. Feel welcome to invite any of your trusted friends who are interested in participating. The more the merrier, right? And then I had on the final page, in joyful anticipation of your participation and gallant victory, Jenelle, and then my contact information.
That's really something.
Yeah, I know. It's my friend Tyler. I had this at the wedding, and he and I were just laughing because he's like, it's pretty bold you quote yourself on the back cover. I was like, it takes a certain I think, what is it? David White, who says it's the entitlement of belonging. In this, I just really felt like my heart belonged to myself, and I was expressing it here. And so I got a bit bold in that expression, and it felt really good. Doing this felt really, really good. And I genuinely meant what I was saying about it being an invitation to others to reconnect to love.
So you get these printed,
Mm-hmm.
and then do you hand deliver them to people? Do you send them out? And how many do you think you just distributed?
Yeah, I made 200.
200?
I know a lot. I know. Yeah, I know a lot of people. And so I printed 200. I hand addressed each one, signed them, and mailed them out.
And so what was the reaction when these started hitting people's mailboxes?
Oh man. I got a lot of just like, this is amazing. This is so you. I think people delight in my ridiculousness. I got one of the funniest things I'll never forget. I was at an event, and a fellow entrepreneur that I know was like, from anybody else, this coming would seem desperate, but from you, it seemed very, very bold. And I was like, oh God. Yeah, I think most people are just like, they loved it. They were like, that's really like, I hope that I know, that I know somebody. I also, what was interesting, I hadn't anticipated, was I did get a lot of people that told me my description in there when I'm describing who I'm looking for. I could tell a few people took a little bit of offense,
How so?
The age thing was a big deal. At the time when I sent it out, I think I was 44, and I put my cap age at 47. I am very fit. I am very active. I'm very young, and I was looking for a lifetime partner, and so I wanted someone close to my age. Numbers wise, it's a very healthy person. Women live longer, and if you're going to dream up what you want, I was thinking I want to live a long life with someone. I don't want to take care of someone. And I generally had always dated men younger than me, but I had tightened up that too a little bit. So yeah, the age range, I got a lot of feedback on that. Even people that I felt like, or like, the people you would go to, they're like, yeah, you dream big, and like, you can have everything you want. Met me with a message of like, well, you're probably going to have to compromise.
Like your standards were too high.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know anybody like that. I'd get that too. And
You're going to have to settle.
You're going to have to settle, and you might be surprised at, what you'll compromise. And I just thought this so interesting in that reading, because I could make a description of myself and it would be ever as big and bold. And I don't feel like anybody would feel like if they met me, they were compromising in any way. So it's just interesting. And I remember actually a man that was very attracted to you, but didn't really feel the energy there. He was someone that was just like, I don't know, like what you're asking for here. And I remember just really thinking like, you're one of those individuals. It's interesting that you don't see all of this in you that's there. Yeah, but I mean, I know that it can be intimidating. And again, I think that comes back to like, you have your definition of these things, and people will define it in different ways. And I've talked about this before, but being a female entrepreneur, being someone that's had a lot of financial professional success, something that's really tough is that for some reason that seems to be the thing that filters most people out for others. Like they're like, oh, you can't date anyone unless they make more money than you or unless they've been as successful as you. And I
could see how that would be intimidating.
Yeah, well, it's a double standard, like the men I know, no one expects, like I know a lot of successful entrepreneurs, men entrepreneurs, and no one's like, oh gosh, I just don't know any women who've been as financially successful as you. Right? I think that's not even a conversation. They're like, oh, someone's going to be lucky to land you, but and for me, it's like, oh, well, that's going to be impossible. So, defining and knowing for myself what what that would look like. It was just interesting to see that reflected in all the different ways and people's reactions to what I was calling out for.
I noticed that there's no height requirement in the description.
All Yeah, I'm a little person. I say I am attracted to men of all sizes, all, and God, I gotta say, I just love men. Like, they're all so damn beautiful. Like, I don't have a lot of natural filters there. Either. There's probably not the man on the planet that I don't somehow think is somewhat attractive.
Yeah. So you ship them out.
Mm-hmm.
What's the turnaround time on the dates that just start rolling in?
Oh my God. It was pretty immediate. I mean, people were like, oh, well, you've asked and I
mean, your
shall
phone's just
receive.
blowing up with text messages or your email box or what?
Yeah. I mean, I was going out probably once or twice a week. It's funny. Some people, in here, I just say, hey, just send me their text message. I'll reach out. Like, you don't have to make the introduction. I had a lot of friends who were connecting me, and I had made the promise that I would move closer or away with Grace. So it was a real challenge for me too. Again, thank God I had played that game of nowhere to get, because I was able to like boldly have some conversations about like, I don't think this is for us. But
yeah, meaning you weren't ghosting anyone that you went on a date with, and then were not thinking that it was gonna.
No, I mean, I had respect for the fact that people in my community had set me up. But believe me, I got ghosted. I mean, it stunned me the amount of times where I'm like, wow, your colleague at work set us up. And even then, with the social ties that we have, you didn't have the grace to call back or finish the loop or whatever. So, I mean.
Some negative Yelp reviews were left.
Some negative Yelp reviews. No, I just, I let people know. Yeah, I didn't hear from them. I remember I had this incredible date. It was right as the Hoxton had opened. It was kind of one of those opening nights, grabbed tacos, and then realized that like we'd shut the place down because we were just lost in conversation. We had a really great conversation. And towards the end of the night, I was like, this was really fun. I'd love to do it again. We had talked about okra. So I was like, I'll make you a pot of gumbo sometime. But we'd also, in our conversation, had talked about one of my, again, the books. I just love to read. One of my favorite books, Astoria. And I knew that he was traveling, that he'd be gone for a month, and that it was his birthday. Like we had talked about, like a birthday trip. And so I just put in the mail the book, Astoria. Not even like, hey, thanks for the book. I was just like, never heard from him again. And it was just so like, whoa, I misread that one. So when I think about dating, just how grateful I was for the people that were willing to participate in just really being honest. Like, like it's just being human. The guy actually that asked me out on that Valentine's Day morning really taught me a lot about communication, like right off the bat. Like I almost felt like he was sent to me to be like, hey, here's how it's done. And he had just recently divorced, and he really wasn't ready for a relationship. But, he took action on a feeling that he had at a grocery store. But then like on our first date, he really was just like, listen, this is where I'm at. I am really not in any place near there, but, enjoy the time. And we wound up being friends, and we wound up doing a few things together. And it's just lovely to just have people just be honest with you. Like, it's just such a gift. So I just tried to remember that. Another fun one was I went out on a date, and man, I would have loved to start a book club with this guy. I mean, we had like read all the same books, and we had like a great conversation. But I also noticed like throughout the conversation how many times he brought it back to his faith, and he was Jewish, and how important Judaism was to him and his life. And, I have so much honor, and I love that. And I know that's not going to be a part of my life. And so, all right, towards the end of the date, just being like, I really like you. Like, I hope we will be friends. I have noticed that this is such an important part of your life. And I actually have a single friend who's incredible. And also that's a huge part of her life. Could I connect the two of you? It did shock the shit out of him. He was like, what? And I was like, I just, I'm feeling like and elsewise, I wasn't feeling the connection. I think like two people of two different faiths, and I have a deep faith as well. Can probably work it out, but like it wasn't. I knew this wasn't probably my match. There were other things off, but I loved him as well. He was like, well, let me just be clear. I mean, I would like to go out with your friend, but I want to be clear. I would be delighted to make out with you anytime if you like. It's like, okay, thank you. Who knows? Maybe take you up on that. And two, I guess when in saying that, like I'd make out with you, one of the things that's interesting about this experience was I actually didn't make out with anybody. For all the dates and all the connecting that I did, I wasn't getting any action.
I imagine that men would be scared to make the move and then have it go sideways, knowing that it would get back to whoever introduced them.
Yeah, maybe a level of respect. I did one another really funny date. This guy and I, we clicked. Like we were connecting. I could tell it was blowing him away, actually. Like he was like, oh, I had not, like it was just so sweet in his responses. I could tell he had not been used to being asked the kind of questions I was asking. I understood a lot about business, which he was executive in a really large company here in town, very successful human being. And like again and again, he kept saying like, wow, God, what a great question. Like this isn't such a great conversation. Like he and I really connected. And then it was another person that I just never heard from again, like kind of a ghost. And okay. And he worked with a good girlfriend of mine, and she's like, how'd it go? And he's like, holy crap, she's freaking amazing. And she's hot. And I'm like, okay, so I'm amazing. I'm hot. What the hell? And he was like, but I don't want to get married. And she was like, what? Did she ask you to get married? And so I think, I've come to realize that, like, I think that for some people too, having a date go really well is probably really scary. It's just like, oh, this isn't the kind of person that I can just like hang out with and leave. Like this is someone you could build a life with. Or this, like this was something in a different category. So, some of the rejection, you just don't know what's going on for people. That's not what I guessed he was thinking, but I just thought that was so funny. Yeah, she's hot. She's great. I don't want to get married. Okay.
It sounds like you went on a lot of dates.
Yeah.
We obviously know that there was a successful one at the end of this.
Yeah.
But were there any like potentials that seemed like it was going to work and didn't? Or, what was this like a thing where you went on a bunch of dates and then bam, that was it?
Yeah. There were a few. There was one person in particular, still a very close friend, that we saw each other a lot. And I totally fell in love with. But it just always stayed in the friend zone, and neither of us really wanted to risk. One of the things is that like I am someone who always kind of makes the first move in life. Like, again, holding 80%, being the one that starts things. I'm a starter. And I had decided that I was like, I want them to move towards me. Maybe some people are listening to this and saying that's unfair and men are always expected to make the first move. But I'm like, I was asking them out. Like I had made the contest. I was like, I'd done enough. At that point, it'd be for that person to like come towards me. And so it never really happened. And then unfortunately, that wound up happening at a time that I was already starting to see someone else where it didn't happen. And it was a little bit heartbreaking at that moment, because it was just like, oh, it was there, but it's not going to be there. And it's kind of too late. And the timing was off. And, and I think that, through that, though, it was also, there's just so much to have learned about the heart and imagining that as a possible future, or that as like one direction that like, when you're looking for a partner, it's like, it's a life too. You're going to be creating a life. And in that, it was like this person had such a big life. I just always came back. And I think maybe the reason I was reserved and never did just like, oh, fine, I'm going to make the move. Was that I was like, there's just not going to be a lot of space between the two, like when you think about the partnership, I'm like, there's a lot too much of me there, and my mom, actually, my stepmom, Susie, I wound up dating her physical therapist. And that was someone that like she was very excited to connect me with. And we had a really lovely courtship. And I felt very thankful to him. He'd kind of like, I felt like at the time really pretty, I mean, I don't think it would be exaggerating to say really kind of just saved her life, got her moving and healthy again and back. And so, those feelings, very sweet human being. And I think in a way, kind of like my Valentine's Day date that was sent to teach me a little bit about communication. I think that relationship was kind of sent to help me heal from a past relationship. And there were some tender moments in there of like really learning again about love and relationship. But ultimately, when it was a long distance relationship, and when we started, he came out here to kind of like test it out. Like when we tried the day to day, it was a complete disaster. And I realized like, he had ADD, which can, like God, a million fun ideas and creative. And when their attention's on you, it's like nothing else matters. And it was like very intoxicating. But that meant that I was going to have to hold, 80-90% executive function. And again, like in a partner, it's like, no, like that's not, I really need, like at this point in my life, like I need somebody that, that's going to make sure that I get to the train on time too.
Okay. So yeah, you're going on a lot of dates. You've had some seemingly successful start stops.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about
the winner,
the beginning of the end.
Beginning at the end of the contest. Prior to the contest, I had done a modeling job for Pendleton Shoes. I like to say I have a face for modeling shoes. But I had done a modeling shoot for them with my dear friend, girlfriend, photographer, Jillian Lancaster. She and I have seen each other through some divorces, raising our kids. We grew our careers kind of in tandem together. We know each other really well. Very creative, very incredible human being. So at that Pendleton shoot, there were many people involved. I didn't get to meet everybody. There were a few like group shots, but I guess there was someone else that was on the shoot that we wound up not overlapping, that she afterwards was like, oh man, I got to introduce you to this person. You guys have such similar energy. And, I hadn't thought about it much of the time. And then when I did the contest and she got the booklet, she's like, oh, I got the winner. She's like, I got to hook you up with this guy. So I'm like, all right, bring it on. I mean, I'm hearing this from like a lot of people. There's 200 booklets out there, right? So I'm not thinking much about anybody's like, it sounds exciting.
Everyone has the winner.
Everyone has the winner. So I was like, yeah, hook me up. And then she calls me and she's like, oh, he's gotten back together with his ex-girlfriend. But in the meantime, she had told me his name, and he knew another really dear friend of mine, entrepreneur, in town. And I asked Ryan, I'm like, yeah, you know this guy? And he was like, oh yeah, I don't see it. And I was like, oh, okay. So one person thinks so, one person thinks so. And then I actually had been traveling with the physical therapist that my mom had set me up with, and things did not end very smoothly or well after a trip to Mexico together, traveling together. And I had gotten home and Jillian's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. That guy I've been wanting to go up with, he's finally single. Right at the time, I'm finally like, I am done. This has been a year now. I've been playing the contest for a year. I'm kind of exhausted. I had just kind of a crash and burn with an attempt at a relationship. Jillian had given me his phone number. I had his name now. I had his phone number, and it was in my ball court if I wanted to reach out. So I remember the night really, really clearly. Like it's funny now, just like being like, ugh. I was on the couch watching TV and like, might as well. You gotta at some point like telling myself, you gotta get back out there. So I had some intel from my friend Ryan that this guy had dino suits. Like he liked to have these dinosaur suits in his car. So I reach out and I just, I say, hey, my friend Jillian is giving me your number. My friend Ryan tells me you have a extra dino suit. So I'm just reaching out to get more information. And I promptly got back like an emoji of a dinosaur with roar and made a coffee date to get together. And beautiful winter Sunday in late January of 2020. And that was the beginning of the end of the contest.
How long was it before you declared Jillian the winner of the contest?
Oh, man. Between that first date of mine with Mr. Etzel and her winning the contest was a really long journey. Like it felt like that was a while. Like it took a while. It was not, it wasn't like love at first sight and, like it's all easy from here. And I mean, I had a lot of like, what is happening here? And like a lot of, I was clear on my feelings soon before he was. And, you look at the process that I went through, all of the like self-discovery I was on, the amount of time at that point I was dating, like I probably was going to be a little bit further ahead of being clear on where I was at. And so, I was along on the journey with him a little bit as that unfolded for him, which was a really good thing for me. I remember at one point being frustrated with him and saying, I'm not used to people resisting me. And all my friends around me were like, that's probably a good thing for you. And it was, it really was. And I got a chance, I think, in that to prove to him that he was safe and could be honest. I mean, I think that it is not our standard way of being in relationship to just let people have their feelings and not take it personally. And we also, this is 2020. And as we're dating and starting to like really connect, the pandemic hits, which like sends the whole universe upside down. And, my husband is kind of more of a naturally anxious person than I am. And so, that was a time where like that really heightened anxiety. And I'm used to being like, like the role I have to play as a leader and as a mom is sometimes like, oh, I'm this strong one or I feel good. But like I wasn't, like I didn't know what was going on. Like there was a lot. There was just so much happening right at that moment.
And how did he feel? Was he aware that he'd been entered into the contest or, like what was that like?
I can't remember initially if he knew he was like a part of a contest. Knowing him now, I can't imagine he would have showed up at first date had he known. But eventually he did. And it's just so, I mean, the thing I fell in love with my husband immediately was his love of his community, his love of his people. I have gotten to meet just such incredible human beings. Like he tends to friendship like no one I've ever met before. And he does that for us as well. And that to me is just such a gift. And so, during this time where I'm meeting his friends are like, I mean, they just love the contests, like, I mean, I think to his friends, they were like, man, he's kind of a weird dude. Who is going to be the person that ever meets him where he's at? And I think, my friends are very thinking that about me too. I've heard that my whole life. God, who are you ever going to meet that's going to keep up with you? So, and Jillian was right. Our energy is very, very similar. And so they would be like, I got to read this booklet. Give me the booklet. I got to read the description. And, you read the description and, you get a line or two in and you keep going and you're like, yeah, this describes who he is. And Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
And tell me about the prize that you made for Jillian.
Oh yeah. So I worked on a weaving. I had thread my loom at the beginning of this contest, and I had been working on a tapestry, weaving it in different like mohairs and silks and wools, in mostly like whites and golds, kind of like the freshness, new beginning, new moons. I had been working on it while I was dating my husband, and before that, this is how I knew that he was in. Like basically, that he felt the way I did about him, is that we were going up to Washington to go look for some cherry cider. He turns to me and he's like, "So, guess Jillian's gonna win that weaving, huh?" And I is like, yeah, and the magical thing too that the weaving, I finished it in late August, a few years back, and tied it off and was getting ready to give it to Jillian. And we made a date to go hiking. It was for her birthday, and I brought it out and I gave it to her and thanked her. And like, it just coincidentally, the next day was the day that Zip had planned to bring my family out. We went to a family farm that we wound up buying together and hence renovated and proposing. So it's just kind of just the universe, the way that it thread together, and the story and the timing was just really, really amazing.
I feel like you've spilled the beans that I was the winner of the contest in a roundabout way.
In a roundabout way, yes. I'm being interviewed actually by my husband, Zippy, right now. You and I talked about like doing this episode, like knowing that people really wanted to hear about the story, and then like, yeah, how do we do that? And I loved when you were like, well, I'd love to interview you. I was like, oh, this is going to be really fun. Like, I love this idea. I love this. Thank you. That's something that I just love about the two of us, is like our collaboration. Like, you and I both will have an idea and we will share the idea with each other. And then one of us usually takes the other's idea and then like fully executes on it, which is interesting because when we work together, we like kill each other generally. Like, my aunt got us for our wedding that the bowl. Oh my gosh. This is a Japanese ceremony. You break a ceramic bowl, then together you glue the pieces back together and like paint it with gold. Like, we nearly murdered each other putting that back together. With such different ways of approaching problems and doing it, that I just, when we got done with that, I was just laughing because I was like, God, that is just such a great metaphor for us. And, if we have our druthers, we would rather just be like, oh, you want a broken bowl put together? Great. I want to do that for you. Or, you brewed cider and then you're like, I want a label and I want it to look just like this. And then I go and I make it and you're like, that's exactly it. So it's just amazing to have this partner in you that can make ideas come to fruition. And like the podcast was something I've wanted to do for a really long time. And Zippy had a podcast for years. Would you be willing to help me do this? And this podcast itself is such a gift, because I was wishing way before I met Zippy, I was wishing for, gosh, it was a conversation with Lindsay Murphy. And I was like, how can I make as part of my career just like talking to interesting people? How can I do this? And then I meet you, and then you're like, well, I can make that dream come true. And then I have these conversations, and then what's so amazing, and just like this conversation, I'll forget about it. It'll go into editing, and then you'll be like, it's done. You release it. And it's like opening up the perfect gift that you forgot you bought yourself. It's just like, oh my God, and you've made it sound so good, and you've made the whole idea come together, and you've like actually executed it. So it's such a gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you for holding the contest. Clearly, this contest worked out for you.
Yeah.
Worked out for me.
Yeah.
Worked out for us.
Worked out for a lot of my friends, too, that I wound up hooking up with.
Yeah.
Other contestants.
The cast-offs.
Yeah.
Part of why we wanted to do this episode is you've had so many people say to you, oh my God, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So what is your advice to anyone who is listening who wants to do this undertaking?
You first thing you have to do is make room for it in your life. You really relationships take space, and you have to be willing to make room to let that in. So I think, taking an inventory and making sure that you really are committed to doing this. Is it just something you think you want, or is it something you're actually willing to work to get? And I spent a lot of time before the contest defining my own personal values, getting to know myself. So I can't underemphasize that enough. Before, I didn't talk about this, but before I mailed the envelopes went out, or kind of in conjunction with that, I actually wrote myself a letter about manifesting, what I wanted it to look like when it was done. I found this letter coming into here, and I almost had forgotten that I had done this. I do this quite often as I, write myself a letter pretending I'm in the future and looking back. What did it look like? And, this says, wow, what a year. The matchmaking tournament was a success. I don't know if I've ever had so much fun dating, adventures, romance, learning about myself, becoming more confident, and deepening my understanding of intimacy and surrender. I love the relationship that's forming with the winner, and I am so grateful for this opportunity at Love Again. And I think about, I wrote that, and that is everything I got out. I got fun, I got adventure, but that's what I was clear I was after, right? To play a game, you got to be willing to risk yourself and put yourself out there. And love is all about that. Just really love is. And you have to remember too that a love is, it's being vulnerable. So, just telling people what I wanted, in that I was practicing love, sending those booklets out, whether I met my match or not, I was practicing love. I was up to love. So, for people that want to do this, know it's going to take time. Know you're going to have to put yourself out there. Know it's going to mean rejection, and then fuck it, because it's what you want, go after it. And so start with that list. I just can't emphasize that enough. Start with what you want. The minute that you get clear on what you're looking for, you will be able to see it. And I don't know if I'd had that list, without the contest, without that, I don't know that I would have met my husband. And having that list to go back to, on those days leading up to our wedding, and even, now celebrating our anniversary and looking back. And when I think about that, it's the reminder that I got exactly what I wanted. That helps sustain a relationship, to remember what you valued. And for me, the most important thing on that list was that my partner have close relationships with other men.
Why do you think that? Why was that so important to you?
Because to me, a marriage takes a village. A successful relationship takes a community. And I had been in relationships before where people didn't have a lot of community. Too much was left on us. And
when you say us, you mean
me and my partner. My chiropractor talked about this long ago. I was healing from an injury, and she's like, you really need to practice community chiropractic. You have to make sure you have a support network around you. And I think love is like that, in that, when Zip and I have you and I have a hard time, that I know you can go to your network of friends and get love and support, and they send you right back, nourished. And that's not, you're not alone. We're not alone. We're never alone. Everybody's rooting for us. Also, for me too, I see this show up all the time, is so powerful, is that having a partner that knows how to tend to friendship means that they'll know how to tend to your friendship, your relationship. And that is at the core of what I wanted for my marriage, for my relationship, for my life, was that friend that knows how to be a friend, and that is loyal, and that shows up. So, I think some of those things, just successful relationships, the best judgment of the future, best predictor of the future, is past behavior. And so, you're looking at someone's past behavior of how they show up for their people. Like that's, pretty good indication of what it's going to be like for you. So, just being intentional, being clear, knowing what you want, knowing what's good for you. Be a student of love. What does nourish love? I've done a lot of reading of love, a lot of poetry, a lot of, and so some of these universal truths are universal because they're true, and like, you're not gonna like, oh, well, this isn't quite there, but like, I think, our love can overcome anything. And it's just like, that's not true. Like we are all human and it is hard being human. So give yourself all the advantages, but yeah, so make the list, put it out there and, and be fearless in your game of know where to get. Let it unfold and see. And I think the thing that more than anything really that got, you or I to our finish line was that I could hear you and how you felt and it wouldn't shut me down. At the time when you were uncertain that I could just be like, that's okay. And I wasn't upset at you. Like, I just hear you're uncertain. I want to be clear with you. It's kind of, like the guy was like, well, I want to be clear with you. I'd be stoked to make out with you. Tell me your friend, It's just like, well, I want to be clear. I'd love to spend more time with you. I do. Like, it just continually taking the risk and putting yourself out there because it was like nothing to lose.
You were very patient.
I was, and you were too, and you have been. So, and at the end, like it's all life's a game and have fun with it. And it's not the prize. It's not the reward. It's definitely the journey.
Thank you for letting me interview you.
You're welcome, honey. Thanks for being willing and thanks for bringing so much of these really just incredible creative projects and opportunities to me in my life. I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks again to my husband, Zippy, for being willing to join me today. You can see photos of the contest booklet for yourself on my Instagram at Jenelle Etzel. That's spelled JENELLETZEL. You'll find it posted to my grid as well as in my story highlights. I hope this inspires you to create your own matchmaking contest and magic. And speaking of love, next time I'll be joined by creative power duo Ashad Simonian and Eden Dawn, who are not just creative collaborators, but also married. We'll chat about their various projects as well as what it's like working so closely with your spouse in creative endeavors. See you then. Enjoy. Jenelle.